many times we work with all different systems from Procore, eBoulder, Trimble's full suite really now as they're moving toward Unity, Autodesk, even Microsoft. And I think we learned, back in 2009, where disruption was cool and sexy and all that, that it's not quite as the thing that we wanted. It's painful. People have to relearn new things. How do we address change at our organizations? And a lot of that times is figuring out how to create comfort in that change, how to help people move through, say, the loss that they're feeling when they're doing something new and different, and explaining to them and helping get that buy-in. And so, you can change all you want, but if the people don't pick up the tool and they don't use the tool, then it was a failed mission. So getting into how people work, what do they need to succeed, and ensuring that those processes are enhanced and augmented are really critical. And this goes down to thinking about just the non-optimal work and the relationship that it has to our lives of, someone who is a carpenter doesn't want to necessarily go back and plug data into a system. They want to build the wall. They want to build the casework. And so this is where stuff like field technology gets really cool, especially with field monitoring, is can we report on progress without having the person do the reporting? Let the person do the building. It's why they get up in the morning. How do we get the data out of it? And so those are the kinds of examples we look for is, are we submitting, a comprehensive submittal that has all of this information? Doesn't need to be reviewed by certain teams, doesn't need to meet certain criteria. What is that entire chain of approval look like? How do we use technology to ensure that gets done without having someone play telephone all day long and figure out where the heck in this approval chain is this document? As just one example. So it really we get really into the nitty gritty of like making sure that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, and that everything is looked at by all the right people. So before it's installed, you got the right thing rather than here's your day two change. You're welcome.
And I think that's such an important distinction, right, between the services that support the product itself. When we talk about this messy thing of interoperability and getting all this stuff to work, is that we think that just buying a Boomi or buying a Workato or buying one of these things is going to fix it. But there's so much that goes into how you use something like that. And so you're kind of there to help guide through these very complicated things that rather than just buying it and think you can figure out yourself. Is that right?
Yeah. And we don't do it alone. I mean, we talk about this at the ACIS summit all the time around, when. Like, I think many times interoperability gets mistaken for like, I can just hook the fire hose up to somebody else's system and send data all day long. But the reality is, and I've learned this from working on design buildings, if I call the GC sub up and ask them a question, I'm going to run the risk of them stopping work, deciding that there's a little bit of maybe unsurety in what we're doing and start to ask questions and slow them down. And then I'm going to get an angry phone call from the GC about, hey, why are you talking to my guys? Much like the same way if they call up my engineer and start to talk about making a change without me being privy to maybe the aesthetics or other things that might impact. And so construction is a massive exercise in collaboration. I think the hierarchies that we establish create safeguards around productivity and making sure we're certain about the work we're doing. No one likes rework. And unfortunately, you got to go slow to go fast. And I think in the spirit of everybody trying to, do the best and move things along quickly, that's where we start to open ourselves up to mistakes of what I would call like, they're well intended. But unfortunately, goodness, maybe if we slowed down for 2 days, we would have maybe gotten it right the first time.
Yeah, it's like the intersection of IT kind of policies and practices, and then like collaboration best practices. They're always going to be somewhere like at odds, right? But it's like at least having that discussion and understanding where that messy middle is.
Yeah, and many times the IT teams are coming in with they have a set of requirements and a set of features that they're shopping for, and those requirements and features are fully divorced from how things happen. And so getting that process to be considered in the requirements part of the shopping for technology solution is challenging because the IT guy hasn't likely done construction before. You're lucky if they have. And so getting all of that shared experience to the table, I left a panel at Infraday once, and the guy from Denver Water, Austin, he said a really brilliant thing. He said, if you want to drive collaboration at your organization, before you start any initiative, ask who else you need at the table. And I think it's always forgotten because we're always trying to move so far, so fast, so often.